Welcome, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar, Streamlining Driver Payroll with Argano's 4,000. Before we begin, I wanted to cover a few basic points. If you have technical or content-related questions during the presentation, please use the Q&A box and we will address them. Closed captioning is available by hovering over the stage area and clicking the CC button at the bottom of the screen. To access today's resource materials, simply select the Docs tab on the right-hand side of your screen. All registrants attending today will receive a link to the recording post-webinar. Now I would like to introduce you to today's first presenter, Richard Swartz, who oversees our HCM business development at Argano. Richard, welcome. You may now begin.
Thank you, Carrie. Thrilled to be here, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. We're thrilled to have you with us. We have three amazing speakers today, and I'd like to have each of them do a quick introduction. So Ryan, please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Richard. Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Connor. I'm a regional manager at Oracle. Been with Oracle for 7 years, based in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm responsible for our travel, transportation, and logistics vertical here at Oracle. Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Ryan. Kathy?
Hi, my name is Kathy Murray. I'm part of the HCM practice here at Argano and work very closely from the sales to delivery within the transportation area on how to solve the challenges we see specifically around the payroll, but all the way back up to HR. And so happy to be here, and we'll talk about the different areas throughout the hour.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. And Chandra will be joining momentarily, so we'll just continue on. So here's today's agenda, and we're going to go through a very organized order here of our driver payroll solution, and I'm going to start with the Argano introduction. So Argano's Oracle Business Unit covers the complete Oracle Cloud offering, all the pillars, and you're actually going to hear about three of those pillars today: HCM, and CX, excuse me, two of the four pillars. But we are a 25-year partner with Oracle, have over 800 people. We achieved a very high net promoter score, one of the highest in the industries, and that's where customers have been asked, would they do business with Argano again? So very proud of our score. We have many awards for excellence and have done over 1,000 cloud implementations. One of our awards is from this year's Oracle, last year Oracle's Cloud World, which you probably now know is for the upcoming year, Oracle AI World. We won at last year's Oracle Showcase a 2024 Partner Award. This highlighted our achievement for innovation. And this is just one example you're going to hear today of the many innovative solutions that Argano brings to the table with Oracle and our customers. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Ryan Connor from Oracle. Ryan?
Thanks, Richard. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about Argano. I think the true test of a really strong systems integrator and a partner is seeing customers sign up for phase, not only to do phase one, but also do additional phases in phase two. So Argano's is implemented in several of my clients, ERP, HCM, and even supply chain. So, but just to talk a little bit about Oracle's industry perspective, can we go to the next slide? Awesome, thank you. So artificial intelligence is probably one of the most important areas of investment here at Oracle. Larry Ellison, the founder of Oracle, believes that AI is the most important discovery in human history because he thinks that the next generation of AI will reason, it will discover insights and conduct tasks much faster than humans ever could. And so Larry's perspective is important because he drives Oracle's strategy, and AI is his top innovation priority. And so, if you think about where Oracle is really putting a lot of emphasis, is that we built our applications to be AI first, with a single complete suite that includes finance, supply chain, HR, sales, service, and marketing, as well as industry-specific applications. So this means when we deliver AI use cases, whether predictive, whether generative, or agentic use cases, your data is already in one spot. So there's no room to move any of your data. And in addition, there's no need to define security or access rules, because all of these things have already been done inside of your Oracle Fusion applications. And so as such, the easiest and the most cost-effective way to really start taking advantage of AI is with these embedded use cases in Fusion applications. And that includes predictive AI, generative AI, and AI agents, as well as AI agents teams. Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. So I'm going to drill down now to kind of start talking about the specific solution that we have around incentive compensation. This is one of our areas that we've got a very strong presence in the market, especially when it comes to transportation and logistics, because of the high number of drivers that have to be paid on a variable model. And the beauty of Oracle is that because we have such a broad and deep platform, you have your HR as part of your Fusion application suite, as well as a lot of the calculations that take place to generate compensation, all in the same suite as your ERP, which actually is your actual. So being able to deliver a very accurate variable compensation to your employees is something that is a result of really having everything on a single instance, on a single application. And what's even more important is what we're doing with AI, because everything's on that same platform, and all of your data, all of your business rules, all of your employees, all of that context is kept on the same application platform. And because of that, we can drive really, really strong reporting, not only, which I think the use case we're going to focus on today is really around drivers, but with this same concept can be taken to your sales staff as well. And when you start thinking about, variable compensation, incentive compensation around commissions. So can we go to the next slide, please? And that might be my last one. And I'm going to pass it back over to there's one more here. Yeah, so I just wanted to call out some of the meaningful business benefits that our customers receive from this incentive compensation variable calculation tool. So, you can see that there's a strong ROI when you start paying your employees accurately, and there is there's a workflow that can support, if there is any kind of service request because of if there's ever any kind of, I don't want to use the word inaccuracies, but if there's any questions or additional discussion that needs to be handled and managed through a service request, you have that capability too. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Argano. Thank you for the time.
Great. So as we look at today and we talk about what are the issues, what are we seeing within the industry, there's a lot of unique challenges that we could be solving. And every organization that we've talked to is trying to solve something different. And so where we're going to talk about today is just the complexity that lives within the ecosystem within transportation, whether it's playing not just employees, but owner operators and the independent contractors that you're working with, or just being able to calculate visibility, and then just regulatory compliance, making sure you've got your licenses up to date and you're putting your drivers out there in a safe place. So there's a lot of different challenges that we'll talk through as we go through. One of the things we think about as we go through, beginning of talking with a customer, is what are they trying to solve? Everyone has a different area and different pieces to the puzzle that we're flexible in how we work with them. So we try to bucket a couple of the key challenges that we see that different organizations are solving. So we talk about the classifications and ownership. So this is, are you just have employee drivers that you're going to be paying, or do you have independent contractors? Are they bringing their own trucks that we then got to manage contracts with them, making sure the maintenance is up to date on their trucks, being able to calculate their pay. So we talk about what is our workforce classifications that we need to be solving for. As well as when we talk about those drivers, what are the regulatory compliance that needs to be in place? How are you monitoring that? How do we make sure we have the right insurances, licenses, and certifications that are real-time updated, and making sure when we're dispatching our drivers, we're dispatching those that are up to date. The other things that we're looking for is when we're talking about the payment and data complexity around the different driver operations. So how do you pay your drivers? What are the systems that they're in? Are we looking to change those systems? How different are they? Are they based on, is it company-wide? Are they based on the contract that you're working with? So all different variations as to how we might need to be paying our drivers. Do you pay them different versus an employee-owned versus an independent driver? So that all comes with different complexities. How do we handle different contracts? How do we make sure the employee understands how they will be paid, or the contractor know that they're going to be paid? And then the visibility of not just where is my route, what am I going to get paid, but how did that calculation happen? The bonuses that are paid to drivers, keeping your drivers in place, right? So much of it depends on they want to be paid and compensated for what they're working, and being able to see that immediately. So in the end, right, we're looking at, we got drivers, we got a software, we need to have a system that can really allow connectivity at any point, whether we are offline, online, giving them the access, and they want the real time, I finished that trip, how much am I going to get paid for it? Or I might want to understand, what will I be paid as I'm going through? So the visibility into not just what is my route, but how much am I going to be paid? What is my paycheck going to look like as I'm progressing through the week? All that information there's different ways we can solve for it within the cloud. So these are starting to open up the different discussion points as we talk about what is the right solution for an organization. How complex of a transformation are we looking for? Is it HCM specific? Is it ERP? Is it holistic? Even doing the dispatching. So when we say, what's the solution? We know we have a lot of different challenges. What are the different solutions that we can look at? So one of the things that we've really thought about is everybody's at a different place, and we want to be able to meet organizations where they want to be at and where they need to be at to start the journey, or they're halfway through a journey. And so the way we've really looked at this is that we are looking to build scalability within the organization and how an organization might transition throughout the process. So we focus on, we need employees, and maybe HCM is first. And so whether we look at first an HCM only implementation, that really we're focusing on being able to have drivers in the system, whether they're independents, whether they're your own employees that we're either recruiting or we're coming through 10th Street, being able to bring in all the data, track the drivers, make sure we've got all the licenses, and that we have our regulations all up to date on the employees. That could be a step one. Just paying them, right? And so that could be a step one in the process. As we go down, we talk about, okay, maybe this is an HCM and an ERP. We're going to keep dispatching. We're going to keep wherever your trips are calculated today, and we receive it. That's a fine next step too, right? And so we see these interrelationships that can happen. When we start to say, hey, I'm looking to replace, and I want to have a trip calculator I want to get rid of maybe a green screen that's doing it today for you. Oracle has the capabilities, and we'll talk about how Oracle can calculate the trips, how it can receive information from a dispatching system, where the trip started, where it ended, how many miles are calculated, how many drops and hooks, and different as accessorial pays that might be tied to the trip can be visually there, and then connect directly back into HCM and ERP. And finally, if you wanted to do dispatching, you can do all of that. So there's different pieces that we've seen different organizations. We have not seen one size fits all. Everyone's in a different position of where they're looking to start their journey or pick up on their journey. As we start, there's different building blocks. So we talk about, all right, great. Like, I want to start HCM or maybe HCM ERP or trip, right? We start to then break down, how do we start even thinking about design? What are the design considerations? What are we really thinking about maybe from a footprint perspective? So we start the conversations early in the sales cycle to understand what are the right footprint of modules and capabilities that we're really looking to bring onto the cloud. One of the first conversations we start with is legacy systems. What are we replacing? How much information is there? What is the knowledge of those, right? So maybe we've got an on homegrown system where you're finding a hard time being able to staff up and replace those. The employees are currently supporting that. That's one of the biggest things we are seeing within the industry is, our knowledge and the backfill capabilities on those legacy systems is a reason why companies are starting to change. And is it all in there? Is it partial? And so the legacy systems of understanding, is it just dispatching? Is it trip calculation? Is it my employee? Is it my ERP? Of understanding what are those legacy systems and what processes do they hold within? So what are the end-to-end pieces? So legacy systems we start working through. And then we start talking about what are the type of workers? Do we have independent contractors that you are going to be processing? Do we need to have assets in there? Are they bringing trucks? How do we maintain our trucks in our fleet? How are we going to interact with our employees? Are the processes different between different types of workers? And so we start talking about our types of workers, which leads us into the operations. This is really where we see a lot of the discussion around how will dispatching, trip calculations start to change, stay the same? Where are you guys at in that journey? And a lot of this then we'll talk about when we talk about specifically payroll, this operations to payroll, there's a lot of different options between this box and the rate determination of how do we understand what is our payroll specific solution going to look like? Where are rates stored? Who owns rates today? Is it a time system? Is it a payroll system? Is it the trip sheet that's really calculating it? How are miles calculated? How are they communicated to employees? How much information does employee need to see or a driver need to see ahead of time? And then when we talk about rates, how many different rates? Are they negotiated by contract? Are they negotiated at an organization level, seniority level? What are those different components of rates so that we're able to best solution where they should live once we understand ownership of them? So a lot of different considerations, specifically when we start talking around the payroll, which then ultimately opens up to what is the right solution from a footprint within the Oracle software to start, to build on, and to continue the journey. So I built out a couple different examples that we've seen. We're going to kind of high level show. These are more when we see a full implementation minus the dispatching side of it. What have we seen? And we'll kind of give you a high level from company drivers versus independent contractors, just if you do have those independent contractors, how they can be managed differently. So from a company driver perspective, I won't go detailed box by box, but a lot of times we still are seeing a lot of drivers still utilizing 10th Street within companies. And so we've worked with 10th Street to understand the 10th Street of being able to ensure that we're coming back and forth with data accurately through the recruiting system. Bringing on employees, making sure that we've got everybody up to date on information. We are dispatching employees, making sure that when we dispatch, the latest and greatest operations, wherever that dispatching is happening, has good information. They know who can be dispatched and then where they are throughout the process. We then talk about being able to have our trip calculated. Do we need to have any adjustments? How do adjustments get handled? If there are any adjustments, do we need to go through accounts receivables for any capabilities? And then going through the payroll calculation, making sure payroll's processed, having settlement sheets, trip sheets, however your organization calls them, that matches our payroll, right? Making sure those two are in alignment and that the drivers really understand the breakdown of not just, this is my payroll calc, but the trip that relates directly to my payroll. So when we're all in one system, the payroll then is directly going to GL. We can manage cash management through everything to make sure everything's one-stop shop. None of this is custom integrations. This is just native functionality when we start using the full application. So pretty seamless throughout the application of being able to flow through hiring, dispatching an employee, calculating their payments, what they'll receive, down to handling adjustments, and then making sure the GL is accounting for the payroll transactions that have occurred. when we talk about independent drivers that are bringing trucks, we really start to see a different dynamic and really plugging a lot more into the ERP applications and really building out what do I need to know about them. And you'll see in here, you'll see the word pass. That is an extension that Argano is built on to make sure we're connecting all the information about a contractor and the contracts and the agreements that they're signing and making sure everything's buttoned up as to what needs to happen. So similar path as an employee, a lot of similar pieces of being able to come in through 10th Street, but recognizing as independent contractor, we are not necessarily paying them through a payroll perspective, but they're going to be paid through AP as a supplier. So being able to have a dual record of I have a supplier and I have a person essentially that I'm able to dispatch and be able to put onto a truck and track them. You'll see the difference around the contract maintenance, making sure that the contract's up to date. We might be registering their asset within the system to know that we can maintain it, track it to make sure that the life cycle of that asset, even though the company might not own it, is on track and on target. As we go through, right, we talk about in those maintenance contracts, if you have those contractors that are bringing their trucks, you might be wanting to hold payments back to ensure if there's an issue with the truck, they have the ability to pay. So being able to make sure that we've got deductions almost coming out of a potential independent driver's payment, right, to supply that if there is any issues, we can handle those. And then we start to see as after the pay calculation that comes through, they're getting the same settlement sheets that an employee driver might get, but they're really then going down the route of going to be paid through AP and being able to be still tracked in a GL at the end together, but we are pushing them a different route. The business process around their day-to-day activity can follow the exact same business process as an employee driver. So that's just a little bit about how the different life cycles, different applications, and how we can solve different areas within the solution of what might need to be solutions throughout the project. But any of these can also integrate with other components outside of Oracle if there was only an HCM or an ERP component that was going first. So I'll hand this over to Chandra, who'll talk about the trip calculation, how we've built that out.
Thank you, Kathy. That was actually a wonderful walkthrough of the HCM side of the solution. Thank you, Richard, for the beautiful introduction, and Carrie for the organization of this. Yes, this trip calculation is the most important part that we tend to foresee because most of the time it's the dynamic derivation of data real time to the drivers which actually pays a lot of information and into their motivation as well. So ideally, I would say, you know what, we've taken care of the payroll system, we've organized the data. What's the next for us? Streamlining the driver payroll engine, basically. A lot of the times that I've seen across us in these systems, the effectiveness of delivering the amounts paid or using the type of pay that we have to use and the number of stops that are part of the journey, or maybe you get in a last minute trip added to your route as well. How do you really you make sure the driver is happy and he gets to see how he's getting paid? Oracle's incentive comp framework, actually, it's really dynamic and robust as well. Over the period of time, it really became a really excellent engine, not only for the capability of calculating, it also optimizes data derivation versus some key steps. Like when Kathy's team is ready to push the data into the payroll side, are we ready to see the data? Yes, we can see the data right away. Is the driver really assigned to the right payroll engine? All of that or payroll plan. And once the data is ready, are we ready for calculation? This incentive comp framework for Oracle's engine works as the backbone for making this as a real-time experience. So this engine not only powers, it also keeps, we are also ready and update for the AI challenge as well. The efficient engine is basically powered by, for the payroll or the admin who's maintaining the application, He has a guided creation. He has the enhanced usability with embedded generative AI, and at the same time, the agile deployment and AI-driven adaptation. So where does it help me? Yes, you can build a couple of agents for the dispute side of the driver. It helps you to really understand where does if he has questions, because this being a volumetric business process, because you have thousands of drivers a part of the system. If they really wanted to see where they stand, or what's the he's not sure about the amount of money that he got paid for a particular trip, and how do I really get, I can build an AI agent that basically helps me to look at that particular, what my plan is, what did I make last month, what did I look at it, and how do I get how am I making it in this right now. All this information can be driven by the AI agents as well. See, if you really look at it, this is the high level flow that once we have the driver hired into the system, so it might be a vendor based driver, it might be an employee driver, it might be your own contractor. Once that has been settled in the system, you tend to see that how do I really try to automate this into the calculation engine? How does it happen? The ICM's framework has a beautiful assignment engine. It looks at the qualified attributes that belong to the person, and based on these values that are assignments that he belongs to, the respective plan is basically assigned to him. Or automatically, when he's on board and he's on a trip, that data comes in through the system on the data side. The metadata is coming from the payroll side. Both come in and they fall into the plan, and the bucket looks at it and says that, oh, this is what he's entitled for this week. Here is the number. And it also has the capability to send an approval to the manager and say, okay, you have this particular payroll coming in for the weekly or the daily payroll or the monthly payroll. Look at them and see if you can calculate it or approve it. And sometimes there's some wrong information. It has the capability to check that particular validation, and you have an approval in place that really looks through the process. So that's the beauty of this engine. If you look at this end-to-end flow, that's where the trip has been calculated. There are adjustments. That's the beauty of this engine. Like, they're not happy with it, and you have to reprocess the data. And he says that, hey, I've talked to the payroll. They forgot to pass through it. They might wanted to do an adjustment manually to this particular process. That's the framework gives you the capability to really put that extra feed into that plan, and you can recalculate, or if you don't want to recalculate, it picks up in the next calculation runs, and it calculates the amount and gets it pushed. If you've already paid the payroll, don't worry, it'll be there in the next payroll, and it adjusts to the next payroll as well. You have a high visibility, and it explains the differences in the components as what's paid before and what's paid now as well. The another part that I've always felt looking through this industry is reporting capability. Reporting not only for the drivers to see what they're earning, it's for the payroll admins or the driver admins or the managers. They wanted to see how the numbers come through. You want to have a detailed perspective of how he performed on a route, and what type of rates has he been paid on. And because obviously when you're on a route with a different set of metrics, each has the different variable rate component that is attached to it, and which we build it in a system to dynamically derive during the calculation rate derivation for the week, and it calculates that amount and shows it to you. Now, how do I explain it to it unless there is a clean cut perfect reporting that this Oracle Analytics provides? You can really have a in-depth view of what's happening around the route, and there's a sense of less work for the admin team and more satisfaction for the sales rep as well. Quite recently I've seen, because we are in the age of competition and a lot of business processes, how do you really try to compete with the industry? And the key things that I've seen is attrition, driver attrition, satisfaction, loss of interest, and how do you, or you've been on the same job for a longer period of time, how do I really boost those productivities, more confidence levels, or show them that you really work for them, or you create that interest in the whatever job they're doing, because you have to keep motivating every now and then. So we run the incentive comp framework looks at these data that's already pushed in, use that data driven and analyzes it, and we can build contests on them. What does these contests do? You can use those contests as as widgets to the incentive comp mobile application if your driver has the capability. I know some of these drivers are part of a vendor and they don't have the capability. Maybe the vendor can have the capability to see the contest and say, okay, these are my key performers. He has the least number of tickets, or he doesn't speed, and it gives you this engagement, constant engagement, which not only helps us to understand, improve the productivity of late, it also has the indirect proposition by reducing the operational costs. That is what we've seen. When there's a large volume, you have to constantly motivate them, by which also has this indirect benefit for the organization. Gamification, exactly. Engaging them in challenges, sending real-time information, and all these engaging challenges that I've seen across in the past in the industry is constantly making them training, or having them and to get into a situation where in the being part of these contests, or the day like daily competition rewards, and having a real-time feedback like surveys. How do they do it? Are they being part of it? Or maybe have even the customer also be part of the show and say, okay, how did my driver do? I always see in behind these trucks, how did my driver do? And a lot of these 800 numbers. These are what we try to gather out and provide that perfect driver rating experience. Not only calculating, but we ensure that we use this information to go that extra mile. And with AI in place, we can use this data for predictive modeling as well. I'm good. Thank Kathy. It's next.
Sounds good. All right. So payroll, right? For the payroll people on the phone, we are the end result of a lot of information. So when we talk about the payroll side, I have been a part of 4 transportation projects, and I will tell you, not one of them was the exact same. So it is there's very different ways that we can solve all the payroll needs. But in the end, when we start talking about fundamentally from a payroll perspective, what we're really trying to get down to is payroll is an engine, payroll is a calculator. If we break it down the simplistic side of it, we are looking for data to come in to understand how many miles were driven, or how many accessorial items need to be paid. Do I have any vacation time, right? Those pieces still need to be in place. When it comes to payroll, and we talk about the different options from a solution perspective, I mentioned it before, a lot of it's going to come down to understanding the variety of rates, how your rates are generated, what exceptions do you have to rates, and where the best place to store them are. So there's different solutions available, whether it's fully in HCM, right? If we are fully in HCM, those are generally when we are based on years of seniority, the type of whether I'm driving single or team, right? If the single or team comes in and I get paid a certain rate based on my years of seniority, I can automatically have that rate available. And during the payroll calculation, it can dynamically figure out what to pay. If I've got combo drivers, I might be working on dock, might be driving. I might have different rates for them, and understanding them as a person lives in HR, I can still dynamically store those rates and calculate. So when we talk about like the left side of storing rates and calculating, that is generally we see those solutions mostly around the organization has calculated and determined rates that we are going to be paid based on something that lives on their record, and then comes in based on the activity. So the activity, as you see, how many miles did I drive, the drops, the breakdown, there's a rate tied behind each of those that I can say how again, years senior is probably the most common one we've seen. That's a really great solution to store everything within the payroll process. Where we start to see what Chandra was working through and where we see the power of having incentive comp in play is when every single one of our programs in which we associate a driver to be paid can be very dynamic. So it's not just based on maybe seniority. It might be I'm hired specifically to drive for X driver or X type of work, and my payment package is essentially unique to me, or there's nothing about my employment record that would ever tell me that's how to be paid. That's when the incentive compensation can really understand these pay packages, create pay packages. The calculation and identifying the rate to be paid can be handled within that trip calculation, and the end result is passed into payroll. So then payroll is receiving not just you drove X miles, but at this rate to be paid, because the pay profile essentially, or the payment that you've been agreed that you're going to receive, is outlined within the trip calculation or incentive comp in this case. So that's within Oracle. They can hand in hand back and forth, right? So I can tie people to different programs, and that program then has the background sitting in incentive comp. So from an HR perspective, I can still understand, give me everybody on this program. I don't need to have the rates and everything tied to it, but I know who are on those programs. And then I'm not storing the rates all in the HCM side of the house. And then the last one we see is when we will have not use incentive comp. We're not using any Oracle. There's still a homegrown system or another system that is really doing all the calculation. And we are just receiving the rates, the amounts, the miles, everything is coming in. And payroll is just fundamentally processing gross to net. Within all of this, you can have a combination. So I might be storing some rates and some rates be coming in. So it's very flexible in terms of what the right solution for each organization will be. But it's a lot of the upfront design is understanding what are your pay practices, how many exceptions do we have, what is the easiest route for maintenance, how do we understand adjustments over time, flexibility and all of that, with the intention that this can still continue to grow. And as your business changes, you're able to shift, and payroll is not a problem that we're redesigning. So a lot of different options there, no right answer, and a combination of all of these is sometimes the correct solution there. So I think as we start to wrap up and answer a couple of the questions, the biggest piece we want the audience to understand really is we are building to meet you where you are and designing that to continue to take you further in whatever aspect you want to do, where it might be starting small, going bigger as you go, or it might be a big bang and everything's done at one time. When we talk about there's a lot of benefits to putting everything in a full suite or starting where you have the capability to move to a full suite. The real-time analytics, it is at this point in our society, people want real time. They want to know how much I'm going to get paid. They want to be able to calculate. They might want to be able to receive that payment daily if needed. So not just being able to have real-time analytics, but to be able to actually pay on demand as needed, and letting those employees or drivers be able to, whether it's taking in advance, a pay early, the real time, really important. Chandra, if you want to hit the next couple one as a wrap up there, a little bit more on the incentive comp. Yep. Can you hear Chandra?
Yeah. Yes. Sorry. So if this is what I talked earlier to, where after we do all these beautiful processes, the biggest setback I see is, how can I really see what's happening around me? Where's my data? That real-time analytics that Oracle provides, I've always seen that the efficiency of it is such a beautiful engine, and we always provided some crisp real-time solutions for the customers. It gives us a comprehensive KPI view, like the contests. I've had customers ask me basically like, oh, can we do it for the call center business too? Because you've done such a good thing on the payroll side and on the commission side, because it gives you that edge of real time and they hit the route at 7 in the evening At 8, you can see that the 8 or whenever the data processing happens, if it's that day evening, the next day morning, you can see if you run a contest, it shows you the real-time rendering of the information. That powerful gamification is, right around the corner, because the end-to-end connectivity being on the same ERP, having the Oracle HCM and also data connectivity from the driver, whatever systems we use for calculating the driver actual routes and connected to the trucks, basically. And the final part, the driver mobile experience, Oracle CX and HCM both have a beautiful the mobile experience, which you can for the mobile commission experience, or how the driver has made through that rate, he can view through it, and all of these provide some cutting edge benefit to the customer. These are things that value proposition that come out of using this efficient solution. Yes, Kathy.
Perfect. So as we kind of wrap, right, this is, as Chandra said, as we kind of gone through here, the one platform gives you the full visibility into how your organization is running. We're able to handle W-2, 1099 workforce, gives you that compliance, making sure you're dispatching appropriately, the transparency into the payments and the operations, how, can I run better routes? Who are my most efficient employees? And then with all the AI that's available and continues to be released, it's a complex industry with a lot of, I'm sure, questions from the drivers of how are we getting paid? How do I do X, Y, Z? With all the AI coming out, all of those questions, you can really reduce your staffing on the side that's answering those questions and allow the system to be able to answer on behalf of the organization. So overall, it's a solution that's growable that we found has been working successfully within the transportation industry. But it's, where do you need to start and where are you going to be? So if there's any questions.
Thanks, Kathy. At this time, we'd like to open it up for questions from the audience. You could submit a question by putting it in the Q&A box located at the right-hand side of your screen. Our first question is, does your solution require all these pieces on day one, or can we grow into it?
We would say most are growing into it. We have a couple that have done this big bang, but we'll meet you where you need to be and where those platforms are. If there's a lot of times when we start the conversation with customers, it might be the desire is for one part of the organization is really excited or has a dire need to start their implementation. So they might be the focus, but as we do the design, we will understand what is the life expectancy of the other areas of, do we have another system that is expiring that maybe they're not this year, but they are 2 years out? And how do we start to understand the design now for them so that we're not having to go back and redesign anything? But it is not required to have all of them by any means.
Excellent. The next question is, when would you recommend using Oracle incentive compensation?
This is exactly what we always say, right? Where once we feel that the volume is high and you wanted some real-time information, you wanted some of these contests, you wanted some gamification, efficiency basically in the end-to-end process. And the key thing that I always see is you're on a payroll, you hire a driver today and the process is up and running, and tomorrow he's running the truck. He expects his payment to be there by the end of the week. It all looks though I'm not ready for it, and that's where we decide, what, this is why we need an efficient end-to-end system, and this ICM framework provides that backbone. It gives that capability, real-time assignment, and pushing it. At the same time, even the admins or the analysts have the capability to look through it and say, okay, this is the right amount, and I'm happy. We notice that the admins actually save a lot of time and by using this end-to-end process. So I would probably call it like right around the time when you need to compress the time between hiring a person to paying the payment, or he goes on a route to payment. That's when we say, let's have this system.
Excellent. What if they already have legacy systems they want to keep? Do they have to move everything to Oracle Cloud?
No. Nope, that's probably very common. I would say we're still seeing a lot of dispatching systems stay on the legacy, and we real-time feed them information between an HCM system and dispatching. The one thing that we talk a lot about of when it is a dispatching system, and there's always a critical piece of information that they just need to update. We talk a lot about data ownership. Who should own the data? What does the data need to be? Does it need to backfeed? So if I feed over a bunch of information, but dispatching has a little bit more information or more granular, do I ever need it back in my HCM system? So it's really breaking down and understanding any of the systems that do stay in place. What is the data that's flowing back? And if there's any additional information that one system has the other, is there any need for an HCM system, an incentive comp, an ERP system to really understand those additional pieces and make sure we do not have data that can be changed and not backfed and have systems that do not represent each other anymore. So that's not a problem to keep the legacy systems. We just talk about the design and the attributes pretty heavily there.
Great. There are no other questions at this time. Great. You ready to close it out? I think.
Yes, there's no more questions. So I want to first thank my amazing Argano team. Thank you, Oracle, for joining us as well. If you request any further information about what you learned today, feel free to reach out to us, and we're happy to go into a deeper dive and show you not only this great solution we come up to develop to resolve your driver payroll issues, but we could perhaps arrange for a demo using the Oracle solution. So again, thank you to my Argano team, and I think we will conclude today's presentation. Thank you for attending and joining. We really appreciate it, and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you, team.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.